This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Josh Crabb in Winnipeg. At noon, it's cloudy and minus 10 downtown. It's minus 4 in Melita and minus 17 in Island Lake. A 47-year-old man has been arrested after police were called to a gym in the Elmwood-Kildonan area. It happened around 10 Friday night. Officers found 2 victims, both male victims in their teens. They say the suspect approached the victims in a common area of the men's change room, exposed himself, and sexually assaulted both teens. The suspect, still at the location when police arrived, was arrested without incident. He is charged with, among other things, 2 counts of sexual assault. Canada Life is donating $750,000 to expand housing and services for people in the 2S LGBTQ community. The money will be used for the Rainbow Resource Centre's Place of Pride. It's a 55-plus housing unit at the corner of Broadway and Memorial. Paul Mann is the president and CEO of Canada Life. He says the new programming for the 2S LGBTQ community will be the first of its kind in Canada.
By creating a dedicated space where older adults can live with dignity, security, and a sense of belonging, they're not only providing housing, but also building community and connection. For many, this new campus will be a place called home, a place where people can thrive.
Many people have already moved into the facility. Now they're preparing the second phase of the project. The GST holiday planned by the Liberal government will cost the economy at least $1.5 billion in lost tax revenue. That's the estimate from the Parliamentary Budget Officer. And that number could grow to as much as $2.7 billion. That's if provinces with a harmonized sales tax ask for compensation. Ottawa is proposing to lift the tax on purchases such as children's clothing, video games, and restaurant meals. The pause would last from mid-December to mid-February. Israel is defending its decision to bomb weapons depots inside Syria and seize a buffer zone along the Syrian border. Tom Perry has the latest from Jerusalem.
As people in Syria continue to celebrate the fall of Bashar al-Assad, in Israel the mood is more cautious. Israel's Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar says Israel has continued airstrikes in Syria, targeting possible chemical weapons sites and long-range rockets.
In order that they will not fall in the hands of extremists.
Israel has also moved troops into a buffer zone along the Syrian border in the Golan Heights and beyond into Syrian territory. Sa'ar calls it a temporary measure, though it has caused friction. The UN considers the Golan Heights as occupied by Israel. Egypt has condemned what it calls Israel's further occupation of Syria. Tom Perry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
2 Canadian aviation unions say their industry is running on fumes and failing Canadians. Today, the Airline Pilots Association and the Canadian Air Traffic Control Association released a laundry list of changes they want to see. Captain Tim Perry represents the Airline Pilots Association of Canada.
Here's the hard truth. For too long, profit has come before people. Airlines have pushed efficiency to the breaking point. Workers are stretched thin, passengers are fed up, and communities are left behind.
Among the asks, more training, more hiring, and more investment in aviation infrastructure. The white paper released by the unions also calls for airlines to reestablish more domestic travel options. Those have yet to fully rebound after the end of the pandemic. More than 24 people have contacted CBC News with complaints about their cars. They reached out after hearing a story about a Quebec man who blamed lane centering technology for causing an accident. Leah Hendry reports.
Michel Laforge was driving on a remote highway between Timmins and Sudbury, Ontario, when his vehicle suddenly braked, taking his speed from 100 kilometers an hour to 60 in a couple of seconds.
I could see very far ahead of me, and there was not another vehicle in sight.
Initially, Laforge thought it was a fluke, but the braking episodes continued. He decided to contact CBC News after he saw a report last month on a Quebec man who blamed the lane centering feature on his vehicle for causing an accident. Since 2020, Transport Canada has received 70 complaints related to lane centering technology and 212 complaints about automatic emergency braking. Right now, automakers are not obligated to report safety defects, and the systems react differently across brands. Giorgini is the director of the Automotive Protection Association.
So we're overdue to have those rules put in place.
The Forge's dealership was unable to fix the problem. He's now waiting to trade his vehicle in for an older one that does not have the new technology. Leah Hendry, CBC News, Montreal.
Award season is officially underway and in Hollywood with the release of this year's Golden Globe nominees.
Amelia Perez, Netflix. A Real Pain, Searchlight Pictures.
The Netflix movie Amelia Perez leads all nominees with 10 nominations. The post-war drama The Brutalist has 7. The papal thriller Conclave is next with 6. The Golden Globes, which honor the best in comedy, drama, TV, and film, will be awarded January 5th in Los Angeles. And that is CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local news is at 12:30.
Good afternoon and welcome to Radio Noon on this snowy Monday. I'm Lori Hoogstraten, enjoying the white stuff. Wasn't it fun to get out there and make those snow angels this morning? In a way. It was also kind of not as much fun to try and open my car door, and it was frozen shut by the earlier rain we've had. Looks like most of the highways have now reopened. Only Highway 50 from Alonza to McCreary remains closed. Coming up on the show today, do you feel safe shopping? There's a new initiative by the Winnipeg Police to put more police out in malls and big box stores. That's our call-in, 204-780-0893. But first of all, we're going to talk about that snow just a little bit more. Snowmen and angels apart, it's a bit of a snowy mess out there. A low pressure system from Saskatchewan brought over 20 centimeters of snow to southern Manitoba with freezing rain and windy conditions. And they're continuing and expecting to make the weather worse. For an update and a warning on upcoming conditions, Natalie Hazel joins us. She's a warning preparedness meteorologist with Environment and Climate Change Canada. Hello.
Hello.
So can you give us the big picture description of just how much snow this winter storm dumped on Manitoba?
So the main area of concern was southern Manitoba. We've gotten information. It's hard to find snow reports. We don't measure snow the way you think we do.
Oh, how do you do it?
Well, if we're lucky, someone does it for us. Typically what we do is the snow falls into the gauge, it gets melted, and then we report the liquid equivalent. Mm-hmm. So we do get a measurement, but it doesn't tell you what you're shoveling.
Right.
But there are a few spots where we can take information in the observations to get a good idea of how much snow actually fell. So for Winnipeg, officially at the airport, we've got 18. Brandon also got 18. Throughout the province, anywhere from 15 to 20 looks reasonable, though there were some narrow bands of enhanced precipitation. So it's quite possible that some places got very different amounts, even within Winnipeg. North Kildonan this morning reported 11, whereas South Point reported 17. So, depending on where you were in the city or depending on where you were in the province, your conditions could be quite different. We've also had winds throughout this event and still this morning. So reduced visibility in blowing snow, certainly a concern. Snow drifts,
yes.
Definitely a concern. Also making it hard to measure how much snow has actually fallen. And then looking at the temperature ranges that we went through, a lot of the stuff that fell at the beginning of the event, so for Winnipeg, that would have been 8 or 9 in the morning when things started, and we're definitely snowy by even 10 o'clock in the morning, and it just continued. At the beginning, those temperatures were really quite mild. So you had some pretty sloppy snow out there, wet stuff, not a lot of accumulation. But as the day went on, with the wind shifting out of the north, more or less, temperatures fell and the character of the snow changed. It went from that wet, sloppy stuff to a lighter, more powdery snow, and therefore better accumulations or greater accumulations. So, those places that got freezing rain were right on that edge of the shift. So they got rain instead of the wet snow at first, and maybe even during, there was some areas that still had some warm air aloft, allowing the snow on the way down to melt and then refreeze. So road conditions, generally speaking, have been quite difficult for most of, well, since yesterday really, but definitely most of this morning, and maybe slowly now we're getting to a point where things are a little bit better. Radar imagery does have some snow still in a few places in the Red River Valley and areas east. So it might take a little bit longer for those areas to totally be cleared. But we're not expecting really significant accumulations today. So yeah, the bulk of the stuff is done. And now we clean up, and then the cold comes.
Because it's now actually winter. We've got the official snowstorm. We've had it. It's happening. So, but is this typical? I was thinking back to last year, and I think we were worried about it being a green Christmas. And
last year was unusual. Like last year was the really bizarre year. Certainly this season has not been normal. No. But closer to it, more snow staying on the ground. It's December. Yeah. It's white out there. So, we don't really look at the calendar in the world of meteorology with respect to, the solstice and all that kind of thing. It's normal to get snow in December. The snowiest months here are November and December. Sorry, December and January. Okay. But November is quite close. Yeah. So this is not really that unusual. But compared to last year, where we were talking about a green Christmas and we got more rain and freezing rain than anything else for most of the season. This will come as a very different feeling time.
Well, and you were saying,
since we only remember last year.
Yes, but I remember it fondly, actually. But you were saying that most of the snow is done. But what about the wind? Is that going to be a factor?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a factor. And certain places in the province are seeing occasional, very reduced visibility and blowing snow. So Winnipeg itself, we should see some gusts to 50 kilometers an hour, which with this loose snow that hasn't really congealed in place yet, or stuck in place yet, is likely to be picked up and blown around, especially in wide open areas. So airports, highways, parking lots, potentially. That kind of thing. So yes, we could certainly see reduced visibilities here, and then later the winds will be of concern as the cold temperatures settle in the wake of this system.
Okay, well, I have a final question for you. Although, honestly, you've shaken my face by saying you don't measure snow the way I thought you did, and you don't pay attention to the solstice. I mean, what's next? But I did want to ask.
Yes.
How long can we expect the actual scary, dangerous conditions to last? Once I mentioned the only one highway remains closed in Manitoba right now, but in general, it's getting colder, and it sort of rain a bit. So
yeah. So road conditions are going to be poor for a while. Especially with that mucky stuff now frozen, very difficult to remove. Far more difficult than just regular boring snow. Then these cold conditions that are already established in the northern part of the province make their way down here. We will start to see pretty significant temperatures and wind chills tomorrow night. So Tuesday night, during the day, Wednesday, cold for this time of year, that's for sure. And really cold in the overnight period, Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and again during the day Thursday, and Thursday night into Friday morning. We do start to see an improvement on Friday, but the morning period will still be quite cold. So starting tomorrow, going to Friday, very cold conditions. If not warning, very close to warning criteria, where that is considered a very high risk of frostbite and hypothermia. So really important to schedule your time so you're not outside for extended periods. Dress warmly in layers, impermeable layers and insulated impermeable footwear. Cover all exposed skin. And if you get wet, go back inside and change, because you will lose a lot of body heat very quickly. And stay active. So if you're waiting for the bus, for instance, which, sometimes takes a little bit longer to make it to you, don't just stand there. Pace around, jog in place, keep your body moving so you can warm yourself up naturally that way, but not too much, because you don't want to get sweaty. So a little nice medium happy spot there.
Right.
But so really important for people to pay attention. If you are caught on the road, I don't know, maybe the roads haven't been cleared where you're traveling and suddenly you're stuck there, don't leave your car. If your car is intact, it is already offering you shelter. Hopefully you have an emergency kit that can keep you comfortable for a little bit longer. Remember to tell people where you're going, how long it's going to take you, so that, if you don't call in or don't show up, somebody knows, and then they can start making inquiries and maybe get you some help. But the most important part, if your car is intact, do not leave your car, both in blizzard conditions and in extreme cold. So it's so much easier to find a car than an individual person, and it's already offering you shelter. So stay there.
Well, Natalie, it's great to have these reminders now, because it's the sort of thing like, oh, yeah, we knew this was coming. But then when it does come, we are somewhat unprepared, and good to hear this and know what we're supposed to do. So thank you very much for being with us.
You're very welcome.
Bye-bye.
All right.
That's Natalie Hazel. She's a warning preparedness meteorologist with Environment and Climate Change Canada. And for the latest updates on the weather and highway conditions, you can go to our website, cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Breaking news happens anywhere, anytime.
Police have warned the protesters repeatedly, get back.
CBC News brings the story to you as it happens.
Hundreds of wildfires are burning.
Be the first to know what's going on and what that means for you and for Canadians.
This situation has changed very quickly.
Helping make sense of the world when it matters most. Stay in the know. CBC News.
You're listening to Radio Noon. I'm Laurie Hoogstraten. It's a snowy kind of a day there. Everybody's just digging out and getting out the shovels and getting their preparedness on. As Natalie Hazel was just telling us, this is, you got to get serious about winter now. Stay dry, stay warm, jog around the bus depot or the bus station when you're trying to get trying to wait for the bus. Coming up later in the show, we want to know, are you feeling safe or do you feel threatened when you go shopping this holiday season? Because this holiday season, there are now more police patrolling malls and big box stores in an effort to tamp down retail crime. Will having more police patrolling the stores make you feel reassured? Winnipeg Police Service Inspector Jennifer McKinnon will join us with details on this new initiative to cut down on things like shoplifting and other kinds of crime. Give us a call, 204-780-0893, if you've been a victim or if you've seen something or if you feel this is a good idea to have more police presence in the malls to keep crime down. Taking a look at the forecast, it's snowy out there. I think we're going to have a white Christmas. That's just my prediction. But Riley right now is predicting that it will be -10 is our high today, down to -9 tomorrow. And it's going to get cold, -21 on Wednesday, -30 on Thursday, and -29 again on Friday. So, yep, winter's here. You're listening to Radio Noon. It is 20 minutes after 12 o'clock. You're at 89.3 FM, 990 AM. I'm Laurie Hoogstraten. Let's head back in time a little for our next tune. It's 60 years ago, and Brits are watching a newly released film that features Jerry and the Pacemakers. In it, a group of musicians try to navigate the Liverpool rock and roll scene. How did I miss this movie? And it all feels a lot like a movie that came out just a few months earlier called A Hard Day's Night, which I do remember. But this one has a debut song that became almost as popular as a Beatles hit. Take a listen. This is Jerry and the Pacemakers with Ferry Cross the Mersey.
Life goes on day after day. Hearts torn in every way. So ferry cross the Mersey, 'cause this land's the place I love, and here I'll stay. People, they rush everywhere, each with their own secret care. So ferry, cross the Mersey, and always take me there, the place I love. People around every corner, they seem to smile and say, we don't care what your name is, boy, we'll never turn you away. So I'll continue to say, here I always will stay. So ferry, cross the Mersey, 'cause this land's the place I love, and here I'll stay, and here I'll stay, here I'll stay.
That was Jerry and the Pacemakers with Ferry Cross the Mersey. That song first appeared in a movie of the same title that debuted on this day 60 years ago. And I'm happy to say not a single person in the control room or myself remember that day, of course. Well, maybe I do. But we do know the song. You're listening to Radio Noon. It is 23 minutes after 12 o'clock. I'm just looking for my script here for... Wait a minute. It's Blair Sanderson. We've got it. Common experience for many travelers, the struggle to decide what to bring and what to leave home. These days, airlines are putting extra pressure on that decision by adding more fees for baggage. Just last week, it was on the 4th of December, Air Canada announced it will offer a basic fare for travelers who only bring a personal item such as a purse or computer bag on board. Even a standard carry-on bag will come with an extra fee. And for some, this is the latest example of airlines nickel and diming their customers, but others see it as a challenge. Let's follow CBC's Blair Sanderson on a journey exploring the life of the minimalist traveler.
One day before I head off around the world with no luggage at all.
If you want to know how to travel with no bags, keep watching.
I want to share how I travel like an extreme minimalist.
There are countless videos online of people sharing how they fly without suitcases, carry-on bags, or even backpacks. Some do it for the freedom, others to save money, buying the cheapest basic fares without paying for any extras.
These are travelers. Let me just describe potentially who they are. This is potentially a university student who lives at a dorm going home for the weekend.
Duncan D. is the CAO of ACE, an aviation investment company in Montreal. He says Air Canada and other Canadian carriers are simply serving a clientele who don't want to pay for a full fare that includes luggage perks they don't need. But others, like aviation management professor John Graddick, have a different view.
It's just an additional revenue source that they get with these bags. But I think that, I think this is a bridge too far.
Canada's Minister of Transport, Anita Anand, also weighed in, saying she's extremely disappointed by the move. But this is the situation on the ground, or in the sky, as it were, and some treat it as a challenge.
My husband does not travel with luggage.
Stand-up comedian Jen Fulwiler has turned this topic into a key part of her act. And it's no joke.
It's very serious. He is on a one-man mission. He layers his clothes and walks around the airport like he's the Michelin Man, all puffed up with his layered clothes, and he puts all the stuff he needs to pack in his pockets, and he just sits there and smiles in his middle seat at his $49 airfare.
There are even clothing companies that cater to this approach to travel.
My name is Scott Jordan. I'm the CEO and Chief Pocket Scientist of ScottyVest.
Jordan first designed his multi-pocket vests for people's electronic gadgets, but his brand soon started taking off with the no-luggage travel set.
This vest has 12 pockets to hold everything I need on my flight. 2 right here for my hands, 2 snap pockets, a tiny pocket here for small chest pocket, a zip pocket here.
We never designed ScottyVest as an alternative to baggage, but a supplement to baggage. And I think it's a little silly when you dress up and you put your underwear and your socks and your toothbrush in your ScottyVest. Although, we even sponsored for charity something called No Baggage Challenge, where people would travel around the world with nothing except a ScottyVest on their back and what they could stuff in their pockets.
Over the years, Jordan's business has taught him a few things about travel.
Bring only what you need. And when I say what you need, at the end of a vacation, look at what you brought, and I'll bet you half of the stuff you didn't even touch.
To be clear, the minimalist travel movement isn't new. It's just gaining more attention as people contemplate rising baggage costs. But for many who do it, it's worth much more than the monetary savings. Back in 2016, speaking to CBC Radio, minimalist world traveler Cara Benson recalled her mood lightening when she decided to lose the weight of her bags.
They were really closely related. The physical lightness, not having anything to carry around, for those of you who have traveled, you got the heavy backpack and everything. It really translated to an emotional lightness too. I woke up every morning not knowing what was going to happen and feeling like anything was possible. We could go down any path, and it was open.
As to how open the regular traveling public will be to separate charges for carry-on bags, well, that one is still up in the air. For CBC Radio, I'm Blair Sanderson.
Air Canada's basic fare with additional carry-on bags starts January 3rd, and WestJet introduced theirs last June. Well, William Prince has a trio of songs to add to your holiday playlist. That includes 2 original Christmas carols from Winnipeg singer-songwriter. Here's one. This is William Prince with The Sound of Christmas.
Sound of Christmas, gather round, it's Christmas. One day soon, we're gonna miss this sweet sound of Christmas. Mama's in the kitchen yelling, get out the way. Dinner's almost ready, hide those candy canes. My uncle's snoring on the couch cause he works all day. That's the sound of Christmas. The dogs start barking, someone new walks in. Cold beer, Yahtzee, cashews in a tin. There goes my aunt, she can't stop laughing again. That's the sound. That's the sound of Christmas. Gather round, it's Christmas. One day soon, we're gonna miss this sweet sound of Christmas. In the mall, a small child's crying out loud. Carols playing.
That's William Prince with The Sound of Christmas. And coming up after the news, we want to know what you think about the bigger police presence in shopping malls and big box stores this year. Give us a call, 204-780-0893, and tell us what you think about that. You're listening to Radio Noon. The news is next.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon, I'm Josh Crabb in Winnipeg. At 12:30, it's cloudy and -10 downtown, -6 and cloudy in Brandon, -13 and partly cloudy in Thompson. A 47-year-old man is charged with 2 counts of sexual assault, among other things, following an incident at a gym. Police were called around 10 Friday night to a gym in the Elmwood-Kildonan area. Officers found 2 victims, both male victims in their teens. They say the suspect approached the victims in a common area of the men's change room, exposed himself, and sexually assaulted both teens. The suspect, still at the location when police arrived, was arrested without incident. Now to Damascus. That's the ongoing celebration in the Syrian capital following the collapse of the Assad regime. President Bashar al-Assad and his family have fled the country and have been granted asylum by Russia. As for a new Syrian government, it's not clear yet how or when it will be established. But Volker Turk, the UN's High Commissioner for Human Rights, says certain expectations will need to be met.
So I hope that within this current environment, there will be this inclusive dialogue that involves women, that involves young people, that involves each and every segment of the Syrian society to forge a vision for the future of the country.
Meanwhile, the rebel forces now in charge of the country say they will grant amnesty to all military personnel that were conscripted into service during the Assad regime. A U.S. Marine veteran accused of choking a subway passenger to death has been found not guilty. 26-year-old Daniel Penny, who is white, pinned down an agitated black passenger on a New York train last year. Penny's lawyers insisted he was protecting himself and others from a volatile, mentally ill, and potentially dangerous man. On Friday, the jury said it was deadlocked and could not deliver a unanimous verdict on the manslaughter charge. Today, jurors acquitted Penny of a lesser charge, criminal negligent homicide. The Rainbow Resource Centre's new Place of Pride campus got a $750,000 injection of funding from Canada Life. The insurance giant is across the street from the 55-plus housing unit for 2S LGBTQ at Broadway and Memorial. The money will go towards the next phase of the $20 million facility. Matt Cutler heads the Rainbow Resource Centre.
It's quite surprising to me that there is no place like Place of Pride in Canada. A place where community can come together, where they can see each other and people who look like them. A place where our seniors can age in place and be honored in their identity and in the dedication that they've given to our communities throughout their lives.
Many people have already moved into the facility. Now they're preparing the second phase of the project. And that is CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local news is at 1:30.
Thank you very much, Josh.
You're welcome.
And joining me in studio is CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk. And Riley, you warned us. You told us this was going to happen. And sure enough.
Hope you had an all right drive in.
It was beautiful. So
nothing like a little bit, well, relatively speaking, a little bit of snow. Just a little bit.
Dashing through the snow.
In Winnipeg, about anywhere between about 17 and 18 centimeters of snow. A couple reports of around 20 in the city since Sunday morning. So it was snow.
It was a good one.
It was a good one. Out to the into the Brandon region, again about 17 centimeters of snow inside the city of Brandon itself. Outside the city in the Red River Valley, lesser amounts in that 10 to 15 centimeter range is expected, but some pockets where we did see some higher accumulation. So pretty much as forecast with those 10 to 15 centimeter marks with some pockets of higher accumulation. Today, the story is the wind. We are seeing a little bit of light snow still falling out there, and that's what we'll see through the day is just sort of some on and off light snow through the afternoon. Winds right now, northwest sustained at 33 in Winnipeg, sustained at 26 kilometers an hour in Portage. Seeing some gusts into that 40-50 mark through the Red River Valley, so a bit of a windy one out there today. Winds will die off as we get into the next day or so here. We'll start to see them backing off as we get particularly into the overnight period tonight. So minus 11 in Winnipeg at the moment. Portage, Morden both at minus 10, minus 4 in Melita. Brandon's at minus 6 right now. And Thompson and Churchill both at minus 13 degrees. Mostly cloudy skies across southern Manitoba at the moment. We've been stuck under some of this cloud cover. And that's really what we can expect is a mostly cloudy sky through the rest of today into the overnight period. Maybe a few breaks in that cloud overnight tonight, but still, for the most part, staying things cloudy as we get through the overnight period. Into the day on Tuesday, we do start to see another very weak disturbance moving through. So this will bring us some scattered flurries on and off through the day tomorrow, really across southern Manitoba. Pretty widespread chance we could see some scattered flurries really right across the south and even into parts of northern Manitoba tomorrow. As we get into the afternoon, we'll start to see some clearing in the north. That clearing makes its way south. This is along with a ridge of high pressure that will set in as we get into the day on Wednesday. And this is really going to drive our temperatures way, way down as we get into the day Wednesday, into Thursday, and even into Friday, looking at some pretty cool conditions. Temperature in Winnipeg today, steady around minus 10, minus 6s, minus 7s into the Westman region. Thompson looking at a high of minus 12 today. Tomorrow, minus 9 degrees. Overnight Tuesday into Wednesday, dipping to minus 25.
Brr.
High of minus 21 on Wednesday, dipping down to minus 30 Thursday morning in Winnipeg, and a high of minus 23. So, yeah, get ready for a few really cold days to end this week in southern Manitoba, really across the province, looking at temperatures really sinking, especially into Thursday and Friday mornings. And then we'll start to see things bumping up again into the weekend.
It'll make the skating rinks
Yes.
ready to go.
Yes, it will really freeze things up. And I mean, if there's still some snow cleanup to be had, probably going to make that kind of tough too.
Yeah.
So.
Still windy today, though, eh?
Yeah, still breezy today. We'll see the wind really backing off as we get into Wednesday. So much calmer day tomorrow.
Well, great. Thanks very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
Good roundup. Thank you. That's weather specialist Riley Lachuk, and you can hear him this afternoon on Up to Speed from 3 to 6. And, of course, you can see him this evening on CBC News at 6. You're listening to Radio Noon. It is 22 minutes before 1 o'clock, and we want you to give us a call. This is an interesting topic and something that I think we've all been thinking a bit about, because December it's a busy time for retailers, and it's also a busy time for shoplifters and store holdups, robberies, car break-ins. And to tackle what the police are calling a retail crime epidemic, the Winnipeg Police Service has assigned more officers to patrol malls and big box stores. So while you're out shopping, you'll see more officers, including major crimes investigators. And now that's different from last year when the WPS ran covert operations to tackle retail crime. This initiative is called Safe Shop, working together for a safe and joyful holiday season. And as you shop for this season, how are you feeling about your own safety? Do you think more uniformed police officers on duty will help tackle crime in shopping malls and big box stores, and that'll make you feel safer? Maybe you work in retail and you feel this would help you feel more safe at work, or maybe not. Maybe you have a relative that works at a mall or a store. What's their experience been with crime? And will this new initiative make them feel better? In fact, have you ever been a victim of crime at a mall or witnessed some shoplifting or some other crime? What do you think needs to be done? Give us a call at 204-780-0893 or text us at 204-588-7355. And joining us by Zoom is Inspector Jennifer McKinnon with the Winnipeg Police Service. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So tell us more about the Safe Shop and how it's rolling out.
Well, I think we can all go back to in June when our government was generous and put some resources in regards to funding towards overtime to address retail theft and business disruption that was happening in our city. And Safe Shop is being utilizing that funding that is going to come to a conclusion in December 31st. So we took all the information that we had over the last year, because we did this last year in regards to Santa's naughty list and letting the community know that we were going to be out there and that this was an issue that we were taking very seriously. And we are out there again this year and realizing that we have to tap into more of our resources. So we're looking at our property crime and major crimes investigators, our community support units, our community engagement teams with our community relations unit, who do a fantastic job of this throughout the year. And, we really want to promote the holiday season. I think the spirit of Winnipeg, from when I was a kid going out with your parents, we want to promote that spirit of holidays and family and community, and not have to worry about whether you're going to be the subject of a violent incident or witness one.
So tell me a bit more about in the reading I was doing from the Winnipeg Police Service, using the phrase an epidemic of retail crime. What are you seeing?
I would say we use that word epidemic because we're seeing this across Canada. It's also happening very prevalent down in the States. It has come up here. I've had an opportunity to talk with agencies, police agencies, and retailers across Canada, and it's just become more the norm than it should be. I think everybody can probably come up with a story where they either have been the victim of an employee who's working, or somebody who's just been out and saw somebody run out the door with merchandise. And we have to change the thinking that this isn't acceptable.
Well, that's what we'd like to hear, are those stories from the people listening. Give us a call, 204-780-0893, and tell us what you've seen. Or what you are worried about, or what action you think needs to be taken to kind of tamp down the retail crime that, as we've been hearing, is not just in Winnipeg, but all over. But we're the people going shopping in Winnipeg for this holiday season, so it's good to know what's going on. And so tell me, what impact does having officers patrolling have on retail crime that when they're out there visible?
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. I think it's twofold. I think we've looked at this, we've come at this from a bunch of different directions. This holiday season, we want to have a visible presence and engagement, not only with the retailers, but our community as a whole. I think when people see that law enforcement is out there working with loss prevention, working with security officers, working with the retailers, it's a perception of safety that we want people to see. It's also a deterrent, because if you are in one of these shopping hubs and you're out there with the intention to shoplift, having the police there, it's not a good opportunity, right?
Is that what you're talking about the most? Is shoplifting? Is that the retail crime that you see the most of?
Yeah, well, it comes in variations, and this is, talking with the retailers. We have business disruption, which is outside the stores, where people are uncomfortable to approach these businesses, restaurants coming in. We have the shoplifting, and then I think if you've seen in some news broadcasts past over the last few months, we've had robberies, and this isn't shoplifting. This is intentional coming in, robbing the store, and violence associated with that. So it's a wide range of things that we're seeing that we're trying to address in a number of ways.
Now, last year I mentioned your operations were covert as opposed to overt this year. So tell me what changed the thinking, and how were they covert compared to this year's overt?
So last year they were covert because we were trying to put out, you don't know when, you don't know where, you're not going to know when we're going to be there, but we're going to be out there. Right. So just to create a little bit of paranoia, I will say there is covert involved this year, but most of our resources we want Winnipeggers to go out and feel safe. We want you to enjoy the holidays. So we want to give you that law enforcement presence to help with that feeling of safety. However, if there's an event that's going to be happening, we do have officers that will be there to make those arrests as well. So it's a balanced approach in Safe Shop.
Well, and you mentioned it was a matter of also gathering in all kinds of resources. And I want to talk to you a bit more about that. I mean, having the police on in the malls and in the big box stores, I guess, is one thing in your sort of arsenal of ways of taking care of this problem. And we want other people to also call in with 204-780-0893 and tell us about the best way to solve the problem. We're going to go to the phone lines now. We have Whitney on the line. Hi, Whitney.
Hi.
So what are your thoughts about this situation?
Yeah, so I'm in my graduate program for social work, and I'm just kind of struck by where the funding question is going to. So again, a lot of our learning in social work is not about the funding. Maybe instead of stay safe, maybe it's something about funding for food or funding for homelessness or funding for clothing. So instead of increasing policing, maybe it's increasing the well-being of our society so that they don't feel like they have to go with retail theft. To me, it sounds more like that funding is going to protect corporate profits. So if you're looking at something like a grocery chain, PC, right? They're making the most profit ever, so they can't afford to make things a little bit cheaper for people. So I would beg the question, who is it really protecting? Is it protecting business or is it protecting people?
So you think that the funding that had been awarded should have gone in different directions?
Yeah, I would just be curious about it. I respect the police. And again, I understand that they have a role. I think a lot of what we can do is just look at what's contributing to crime. I know in our studies, we learned that crime is increasing due to homelessness, poverty. So again, it's ask yourself why people are stealing. It sounds like we just think people are bad. I don't believe that. I believe people, if things are increasing, it's usually, or theft is increasing, it's also because just our well-being is decreasing, right? So looking at the funding, just being curious about how are we best using that, and is it actually efficient? Instead of policing more, perhaps it's about securing people's well-being more.
Thank you very much for the call, Whitney, and we will ask Inspector McKinnon to comment. Thank you. And if you have a story or a point of view, give us a call, 204-780-0893. So, Inspector McKinnon, what do you think about that?
Thank you, Whitney, for calling in. I don't think she's wrong. I think we do have a social element to this with the unhoused and people that are struggling. And we've had those conversations in the Public Safety Summit that happened in the spring. We had a retail theft summit. We engage with community and the resources. We have a community engagement superintendent, Bonnie Emerson, and her community relations people that are always trying to look at bridging the gaps in regards to the resources. So you're not wrong. However, it would be remiss to ignore that we do have an element of this crime happening in our city. And I'm not there to protect the bottom lines of the big box stores. This isn't what this is about. And it's not actually just for big box stores in the malls. This is for our retail community. This is the safety of the people that go and they're trying to earn a living through working in retail. This is for the consumers that are going out there to support their families in whatever needs that they need to have. It's their safety. And we are seeing violence, an increase in violence, because the idea of that if you want to get away with this crime, if you introduce the threat or threaten violence, that you will get away with the crime. And that is what this initiative is to address. We're not looking to police people with poverty, and this is about safety. And we have people who don't feel safe going to work.
But I guess this is also part of, as you mentioned yourself, of it being a shared responsibility, that it's not all about the bottom line just being for the police, that there are other parts of society that need to engage as well.
That's correct.
So I wanted to ask, what role should shoppers play in this?
Well, I think shoppers have to take some ownership in how we go about and shop. I'm guilty of this too. We tend to get our heads into our cell phones, right? We become complacent in having situational awareness, where you're parking your car, what you're leaving in your car, going into locations and being distracted by the technology we have now and not being more present. The other thing is that we have an element of this where these goods that are being stolen en masse are being fenced, and they're being sold on social media sites and in some neighborhoods. So I ask that our community uses Crime Stoppers. They're a fantastic partner. It doesn't identify who you are, and you can report some of these incidents when you see something like that happening in your neighborhood.
And what about retailers? What should they be doing? And I'm thinking particularly in terms of their employees. Like, what are the instructions to people who are working in the shops? If somebody comes in and you see somebody shoplifting or something like that, what are the employees supposed to do?
Well, and I think that's more an ask to the actual retailers. I don't think I can instruct, because what I've seen and what I've learned is all different retailers and company have different instructions to their employee. At the end of the day, it is property, and the safety of your staff, obviously, and takes the most priority in this. But I think the retailers have been very active. They've come to the table. They work with us. And you'll see, you start walking through stores and it's like a maze now to get through and get out. And they are taking up their part of the responsibility in deterring some of this crime as well.
Well, I've noticed in a few shops where the door is locked unless you can, you have to sort of tap on the door but before it goes in, before people come to the door. So obviously the shopkeepers themselves aren't feeling that safe. And it'd be interesting to hear about that, people who have shops in different parts of the city, downtown, in the suburbs, wherever. Give us a call, 204-780-0893. And also let us know what you've, as a shopper, what you've experienced or how you think this problem of retail theft can be solved. Well, let's go to another line. We have Jorge on the line. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Very well, thanks. What do you think about the increased police presence in malls to deter crime?
It's not surprising to me. Poverty is the root of the majority of the crime in the world, and we don't have really a tool to stop crime. We don't have really a tool to prevent crime. This is not to antagonize your guest, but the penal system, by its own definition, penal means punitive. It's there to punish crime. We only have a hammer for a nail. We don't have any other tools available. The penal system can't prevent crime because it can only operate in the past. It can only punish crimes that had already been committed. They can't travel in time to stop crime. And so we need a different tool. We need a different tool. Kind of you have a previous caller that was talking about the social welfare network and the all-around economy of society. We need a different tool. Protecting private property of corporate overlords is really a waste of my money and your money and everybody's not. And I can hear people's eyes rolling into their head as I say this, but it's not a lie. We just need a better tool, and the police isn't that tool. We need a political tool, an economical tool that allows us to create a safer, better, more equanimous society so that people don't have to commit crime and steal gifts for their loved ones from a store, or food or alcohol for their addiction. Like all of these things wouldn't be there if we weren't all kind of shortchanged by capitalism. So I just wanted to contextualize. I see all of the efforts she's doing and all the efforts the police are doing, and that's great that we have something that can help us punish crimes that have been committed, but we don't have something that helps us prevent crime. So any kind of prevention that is coming from the police is just not coming from the right place.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Jorge. Those are interesting points that you're making. Thank you very much for your call. And if we still have a couple of minutes left, if anybody would like to give us a call about what their thoughts are or what their experiences have been in terms of retail crime, do give us a call, 204-780-0893. So Inspector McKinnon, another voice heard from about, and again, I think harking back to your collaboration of resources, that you can't, it's not just one organization that can solve this problem, and it has to be more collaborative. Is that what's going on with the Winnipeg Police Service and this initiative?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Jorge doesn't antagonize me at all. These are the conversations that need to be had. I agree. We can't police our way out of this solution. And, but I'm trying to come to the table. Police service is trying to come to the table. We want community resources to work with us. We want to get to the root of this. Policing and arresting our way out of this is not the way we're going to do this. But coming and talking with you today and answering hard questions and doing initiatives like this brings attention to it and brings people to call in and, communicate with us. And that's what the police service wants to do. We want to find a solution with all the voices at the table.
And I guess in terms of just frontline protection, a mall is much different than, say, for example, I'm thinking back to the Manitoba liquor outlets, which had such a high rate of violent crime or people running out with all the liquor and so on. And fairly draconian measures were taken. Now, how would you couldn't possibly apply that to a shopping mall or a big box store, or could you? Or something like that being done at some of the big box stores, I think.
Well, and we always frame this in big box stores. Like, I just want to be clear. Retail theft is happening in the mom and pop stores in your neighborhood. This isn't just big box stores. So we're talking in generalities, but the liquor stores are different because we have you have to be 18 to go in. So you're not targeting a demographic. You're not judging somebody on their appearance. You have to be 18. You have to have the identification to go in. In regards to the stores, I think some of the stores have already enacted this. You brought it up that stores are starting to lock their doors. I was out shopping with my mom. My mom was outraged because she got locked out of a store, and it was simply because the store owner was trying to limit the number of people that were in the store so that they could keep control of what was happening. So I think it is happening on a small scale. Is it something we can do? No, it's not. It's the Liquor Mart was a unique situation in regards to how they do business.
Yes, well, what happened to your mother was exactly what I was referring to, too. You go to a little mom and pop store and think, like, oh, why can't I get in? Well, thank you very much, Inspector McKinnon, for being with us today and having such insightful comments. It's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
That was Constable Jennifer McKinnon with the Winnipeg Police Service. You're listening to Radio Noon. It's just coming up to 4 minutes before 1 o'clock, and I'm joined in studio by Faith Fundal. Hi, Faith.
Hello, Lori. We are free. Words many Syrians didn't think they'd be able to say out loud and without fear. Now they can after the fall of the country's longtime authoritarian regime. We're going to hear from a Winnipegger from Syria about how she and the folks in her community are doing. And what better way to mark International Human Rights Day than visiting the Canadian Museum for Human Rights? We're going to hear why the National Museum at the Forks is offering free admission and what it has planned.
That sounds very interesting. Thank you, Faith.
Thank you.
Faith Fundal, you can hear them on Up to Speed from 3 to 6 this afternoon. Well, you've been listening to Radio Noon, and my thanks today to producer Wendy Parker, to director Sierra Sanders, to technical producer May McKillop, and video technician Kevin Nipatebo. Thank you all for keeping the wheels on the bus, as they say. Nice snowy day out there. I recommend snowmen. It's that kind of sticky snow. You could do that. You might kind of cut your neck a bit if you try and make a snow angel. That was my fear this morning, if there's that gap between your scarf and your parka. So take care out there, and if you're driving, take a lot of care. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Enjoy the day. Get out in the snow. Bye.